Testing, testing. All right, I am live. Hello, hello, hello. What is up, y'all? How's it going? Welcome, welcome. It's been a while. It's been a couple weeks. But hello. Happy Monday. It's not the normal day, but tomorrow is what is tomorrow? Tomorrow's the Stanley Cup final, and I want to watch it. It could be the Stanley Cup final, and I want to watch it. So that's why I'm streaming tonight. Hello, Mono. What's up? How's it going? And hello, Cactus. So tonight, since WWDC was last week, I figured tonight we could actually like play with some of the new stuff. We're gonna be working with some Swift macros. I'm just curious how they work. I noticed this year that I am slightly more excited for the things happening in Swift than I am like all the iOS features that came out, if that makes sense. So more like I said, Swift macros, like kind of wraps my head. Like at first I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about Swift macros because it's going to hide some of the implementation like away from the code, which is fine. But it made me really like nervous just from like, I like to see and be able to find it. But what's kind of cool is that with Swift macros, you can see the code that's generated. Also, I've started slightly diving into sorcery, which if you're not familiar with sorcery, let's sorcery do this one and go to the repo. Yeah, so what sorcery kind of does is it allows it to like generate like protocols and stuff and mocks and such like that. So I started like trying to learn how to write templates and stuff with that, but I feel like we could kind of write a macro that may or may not be able to do some of this stuff. Cause like the WWDC video explained how to use a macro to add a enum subset, which is kind of interesting. That's where I stopped, but I was gonna go try to find the documentation around Swift macros. Macro Swift but like it's really hard to find this documentation. You spent a day migrating to Xcode 15, then was nicely reminded by Compile Swift that you can't release an app to the App Store with it, and spent 4 hours-ish reverting. Oh no. Yeah, you can't. So like when you say migrated to iOS Xcode 15, like did you have to make any like big changes to your app? Or were you just like correcting things in it? But yeah, that is definitely a thing. You have to like split. I would definitely suggest branching if that's what you're going for. Asset catalogs. You were too excited. Ah, yes. Yeah, it sucks, doesn't it? Having to wait then for it. Ugh, I understand. Hey, Dobby, stop. Dobby, thank you. But yeah, I'm also super excited for those asset catalogs as well. But yeah, it definitely sucks. And well, you learned it. I've been there also. So you're not the only one to make that mistake. Believe me. It's not it's a rite of passage, I feel like, with app developers, is like, okay, cool, I want to do the beta and then try it and then yeah. Oh yeah, 100% the new approach where it makes a static, where it makes like the variable name. Yeah, it totally makes sense. It's funny, like 2 weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago at work, I raised like a PR issue. I mean, I put comments on like PRs, right? And we added a bunch of like enums for images and color. I mean, we added a bunch of like assets for images and colors and stuff. And I was like, it'd be really great if these were an enum so that we could like take care of these like static variables and keep them like nice and tight and stuff like that. So that again, I can just type in like icon.plus and like get the icon and get the plus icon kind of like I can with the like Swift SF safe symbols package with SF symbols. And then last week, Dub came out and Xcode 15 was like, yo, yeah, this is basically all that work that you had someone do is taken care of by me. And I was like, well, that's awesome. I'm glad it's here at least, you know, like that's good. But yeah, it'll be nice though. Speaking of which, Xcode 15, let's get it open. Oof. Create a new project, I guess? Yeah. I was like, I'm sorry for causing you all this trouble for building it, but it'll be okay. Okay, so I want to do Swift. I want to play with Swift macros though, because I'm really excited for them. Because it looks like it can be used to auto-generate some code. I'm still trying to find like the Swift macro documentation, which like usually they have here on resources is like how to find it. But alas, I guess that's not the case right now. That's not my Apple ID anymore. That's also not my Apple ID. I was an adult I'm already an adult, but I was an adult last week and figured out how to change my Apple ID that's associated with my developer account to like my business email, which is absolutely amazing because that means that now my personal Apple ID does not have to it is no longer tied to like my developer stuff, which is great. Like I now have it all separated. Oh, cool. But that also means I've not been added here. Sure. I don't really think I need an avatar, but okay, we'll pick something here. Choose. Continue. And agree. Oh, it is way too toasty in here. It's that time of year in Texas where it's like 100 degrees outside and it just makes everything like super duper toasty. All right. Cool. So I'm in the developer forums. All right. Let's want a keynote. Xcode 15 as soon as possible. That's the cool stuff that we were just talking about. I think. Maybe not. Yeah. So that was the image. The asset catalog stuff, which is super cool. Preview support that. Returning switch statements. And finally, there's one last addition, which is Swift macros. No one puts links to anything. Okay, but like, I just want the links. 50s there. Jeez. I wish it was like 50s here. And it's way too hot here. This isn't... I don't need to post. I would like to just go in this, right? Swift macros. Yeah. So we'll just, start a new project. Apps. Swift. Let's just do oh, you know what? We'll open... I started a new project anyway to test things out in, so let's just open that. There's some Swift data and stuff in here too, so we'll play with this. It's fine. Yeah, so what's kind of cool is you can return from switch statements now. So, let's see. Let's go into here. Content view. Yeah, this will be fine. I'm like, what do I want to mess up? The answer is really I don't want to mess up anything, but that's okay. All right, so if I go to Canvas, I open my Canvas here. And let's resume. I don't have enough to talk about for any of this, so this is just like a fun little thing here. Cool. So let's make a quick enum. So we'll do an enum, test return case. This is test 2, test 3. Cool, great, a wonderful thing here. And let's just put a var title, and we'll make it a string. This is just the easiest way I can say for the switch statement. So what's cool is we can put a switch here. Oh, I need to pass in something. Var test return, right? So we're gonna switch on this test. Fill in these. So if I needed to return a string pre Swift 9, it would go, I would have to do this, like return, this is test, right? And then we can grab it here, and let's just grab a dot title, text, title. Cool. It's upset because I don't have a parameter test, so I would do this dot. This is test, and we can get rid of that. Missing argument test. No, it's right there. Edit placeholder. Oh, okay. So let's do return quote quote, and then return quote quote. Right? So that should get it all working now. Nope. What is wrong? We're still missing parameter test. Okay. This really does not matter. All right, so now let's go back to daily lists, and that should be enough to get it going. I should have just made a new view. Cool. So normally normally you would do this where it has to do a return. You can be really kind of cool in Swift and not put return. So we could just do this, like hello world. Check this out. It's going to change here. So that's just if your computed property or function or whatever is only one line, then it'll just automatically return. So that's kind of what actually powers this body in Swift UI, right? Notice there's no return statement, but it still returns the Z stack. That's because there's only really one expression inside this body property here. So just like in title here, there's really only one expression at this point. You have hello world. So let's take that out. Now you can return like this, return this is test, or you can take out the return statement now, and it should just do it. I say as it doesn't. Missing return string. Did I not enable something? I might have not enabled something. I thought that should be fine. Maybe it's upset because I do have return statements. Okay, yeah, it's because there were returns all in it. So now if you're only returning like one thing, like you're only returning based on the switch statement itself, you can just return the one word now. I mean, you can just return from the switch statement without having to type in return all the time. Now, where it fails is if I wanted to do like another thing here, like let hi equals hi. Now we'll get a failure. And this is because there's two statements here and there's no returning. So now that's whenever you would have to pass in this return, right? But like I said, it does help clean it up. So if we take that out, we still get this is test. Let's swap this to test 2. And we'll get this done. And there's test 2. So yeah, it's pretty nifty. I really like it. So you can do that with switch statements like this, and then also if else's. So if test equals dot test 2, we can do test 2, and then else because we have to return something. No match. Cool. So nothing changes here, but there's no return statement. So like we're still returning that. So let's do a test 3 and we'll get no match. So yeah, it just helps clean it up a little bit. I've started to becoming more and more of a fan of like, if I'm returning a computed property, I can just literally do this. This is a title and like, it's great. Or, you know, like the wonderful little, like, I mean, there's always like functions that there's always like math equations that need to happen sometime. So like I'll return like the math equation. Usually it's for a CG float or something like that. But yeah, it's super awesome. You return switches so often that you're sad when you can't do it in Swift. That's fair. Yeah. Yeah. This was like apparently something that a lot of, like, not a lot, but a decent number of other languages had that like Swift didn't. I didn't know about it before, so like to me it's just a cool little new feature, which is nice and fun. Okay, but so though I really want to do the like macro thing. Okay, so so they combine to add macros to Swift, which allows us to, where's Swift documentation? I bet that's where it is. Swift.org. Getting started. Download documentation. Swift language? Standard library, maybe? Jesus Louises. Macros. There we go. Oh, this is going to be fun. I hate reading documentation, so this is going to be great. But it's all right, because it's going to be a good time either way. All right, so let's see. Applying macros. How does this work? So Swift macros help you avoid writing repetitive code in Swift by generating that part of your source code at compile time. So we can go ahead and erase these things because like obviously they don't really do anything. That was just for fun and testing. And let's grab this out of the way. And this can go out of the way. And then in my day kit, my day app, right? There it goes. Cool. All right, so like I said, this is using Swift data. We have the item. Swift data is a really interesting wrapper around core data. So we can see it's returning this final class. And there is a way, I think, to do something like navigate, reveal, and no. There is a way to find the to figure out the code for what @model does. I don't know how, and I should look into that. Because what @model is, it's another one of those Swift macros that I was kind of like looking for. But we'll just open up a new group. You were also excited to somewhat try the preview on device feature too. Maybe you can do it now that you fixed all your code and previews last night. Nice. Yeah, I've done it before. It's fine. It's a lot slower than just, or I have done it like once, I should say. I've not really done it too often. I'd have to plug in my actual phone. But like, yeah, it's pretty neat. Like I said, I've done it like once or twice before but like it's way faster for me to just keep developing here. Like there's been no need for me to plug in my device because usually I don't want to immediately until I'm ready to test it out, like on the phone, like features and stuff. All right, let's see. What are we doing? So Swift macros, call a macro. The syntax you use to call a macro varies slightly depending on whether you attach the macro to a declaration. To attach macro to a declaration, write an @ sign. A macro that's attached to a declaration generates code and adds the code to the declaration. Whereas to call a macro without attaching it to a declaration, write a... you had crazy simulator issue, so you only ever use your phone. That also makes sense. Yeah, the simulator goes in and out of like usefulness for me, depending on what I'm doing necessarily and how the data is all set up. And you have to have people and you have to work with people who really want the preview to work, or else it kind of all like falls onto someone to just say, hey, this has to work right. I like getting the simulator to keeping the simulator working as much as possible. It's actually why I usually don't deal with this kind of stuff inside my views. like the at environments, the at queries, or like in the core or like in older like iHog, like doing the at fetch requests and stuff like that, and keeping the like core data models inside my views, because it's easier for the previews to work in a non, like, not dealing with core data stuff. Oh, when you build your project, Swift reads your code and finally Swift builds your project as normal. To view the code the macro is generated, click on the code where you call the macro in Xcode, then choose editor and expand macro. So let's see if we go to, let's try it. Let's just go to routine item, click, where did it say to go? Oh, so we click here on routine item, then we choose editor, and then we choose expand macro somewhere. Oh, but it's not. Oh, probably because I was highlighting it. So click on it, go to editor. No, it's not. Ah, okay, you have to click on the actual model, on the actual macro, not the other thing. Oh, interesting. So it gave it basically all these other macros or property wrappers, I'm guessing. So if we expand that macro, okay, so it is another macro. So at persisted property is another macro that can observe the key path for title for this specific item. It's wild. Like you're basically programming the program, which is insane. Like it gets gnarly. Let's see. Hello, Noonchi. How's it going? What's up? Let's see how this one goes. Right click, expand macro, last completed. It just gets the same thing. Interesting. Okay, and then let me see. I'm guessing this is the same thing here too. Yeah, same thing. Okay. So now we can close these. I'm assuming that this is actually closing and not whoops. Oh, transients. So these are your macro today. Your macro today was 150 gram protein and 200 grams carbs. Nice, nice, nice. I've been there. I really need to get back to tracking those a bit better though. But hopefully the Swift macros are way easier to track. They look easier to track. So transient takes the backing data. This makes a schema metadata, which is kind of nifty to look at. Huh. Persistent model, and then to confirm to observable. That's an interesting. I mean, that's really cool, like what can happen with it. What are Swift macros? Yeah, Swift macros are new to Swift this year. They allow you to kind of like rate code automatically. Like you can give different code, you can give code into, you can like use code to write code basically. So like Swift data, which is the core, which is a Swift wrapper for core data basically, from what I understand, is applied using the at model macro. And so this gives it a whole new like bunch of definitions. So if we right click, not right click, editor, expand the macro, we'll get all these options again. So this is all code here, in these light gray. This is all code that's been added thanks to the model, thanks to the macro. So like if I were to, okay, can we make one, delete the breakpoint, and then two, to hide the macro. Oh, hide macro expansions. Sweet. So like that's also how the new at observable stuff is working, because it's all using the declaration, which is an interesting case instead of using like property wrappers. So yeah, it's pretty nifty. So we're gonna try to play with it. I want to make a new group here. Macro tests. I'm just curious what I can do with it. So let's do Swift macro test. We'll just make this a struct. Let ID identifiable. So I'm curious like what all I can do with it. Like it'd be really cool if I could do like @hashable, and like it would create a and then it could add the hashable protocol. So like the func hasher, whatever it is, hashable. However, whatever the hashing thing is supposed to do, I end up doing that a lot, which means I'm probably doing something wrong. But that would be kind of cool to do. It would also be neat if I could like generate mocks this way. I saw someone on a Mastodon like be able to generate like testing mocks like this way, possibly. Like I think that would be neat. So yeah. So there's two different types of macros from what I've learned. There's a freestanding macro, which allows you to just like kind of put code in that just runs. So like technically like kind of like using the hash warnings. And then there's like attached macros, which use the @ sign, kind of like the @ models we just saw. And those are nifty because those can add code into the declaration that you're already doing. So I think that's what we're going to try to do. But how do I write a macro? So macro declarations in most Swift code, when you implement a symbol like a function or type, there's no separate declaration. However, for macros, the declaration and implementation are separate. A macro declaration contains its names, contains its name, the parameters it takes, where it can be used, and what kind of code it generates. A macros implementation contains the code that expands the macro by generating Swift. Okay, that's gonna be interesting. Let's see. So then you introduce a macro declaration with the macro keyword. For example, here's part of the declaration for the @option set macro used in the previous example. The first line specifies the macro's name and its arguments. So it's option set and it takes a raw. No, oh, I think this is it. No, yeah, it's option set. And then the raw type. So I guess that's like an int, right? In this case. Yeah, because it's ints. Where'd this go? The first line specifies the name is option set and it doesn't take in any arguments. The second line uses the external macro module from the Swift standard library to tell Swift that the macros where the macro implementation is located. Because option set is an attached macro, it uses upper camel case like the names for structs and classes. Freestanding macros have lowercase camel cases like the names for variables and functions. Macros are always declared public because the code that declares a macro is in a different module from the code that uses the macro. So if I wanted to try something like this, public, what are we gonna call this? Let's do a struct. I mean, what? I was gonna try hash it. And it doesn't take it takes nothing. Raw value. right? Because that's what it looks like. Where'd it go? Oh, and we got to make sure it's a macro. Equals, we have to define it. I feel like I'm missing something. Copy. Paste. Okay, macro hash it must declare its applicable role via at freestanding or at attached. Okay, so at the top. Ooh. Data string URL. What did I say it was? It was going to be a, I'm guessing conformance is what that means. A macro declaration defines the macro's roles, the place in source code where the macro can be called. Here's a bit more declaration for option set, including the attributes for its role. Appears twice in this declaration, one for each macro role. The first use indicates the macro adds new members to the type you apply it to. The second use, at attached conformance, tells you the option set adds one or more protocol conformances. Oh, that's cool. So I definitely want the conformance, but we probably also need at attached member? What's the difference between member and member attribute? Okay, and then that's the names. That'll add. This seems like it's gonna get intense soon. Attach, so peer macros, member macros, write member as the first attribute to the attribute, to this attribute, argument to this attribute. Wow, I cannot read, so I'm sorry. The type that implements the macro conforms to the member macro protocol. That doesn't tell me what these are. But we definitely want conformance. Applying a peer macro to a method of a struct can define additional methods and properties on the structure. So that's what we want. I think that's what I need. Okay, so then what do I do? Raw value could not, I bet. Excuse me. Location of the macro implementation. Okay, but like where does it look like? Okay, so this is at option set int enum options. This code doesn't use macros. Okay. Each of the options in the Sunday toppings option can set includes a call to the initializer, which is repetitive and manual. It would be easy to make a mistake when adding a new option, like typing the wrong number at the end of the line. Here's a version of the code that uses a macro instead. Macro option set macro from the Swift standard library. So that's already one that exists. The macro reads, sorry y'all, I'm trying to figure this out also because I was just like, this sounds like fun. This looks like fun. Let's try it. For comparison, you don't write the code. You would only see if you specifically did that. Okay, but like, what if I wanted to? Where? Generating conformance. Attach this macro to a struct that contains a nested options enum with it. Okay, but like, I just need examples because like I think I understand how it's supposed to be written, but I could totally be wrong. Okay, but where are they? Oh, probably here, right? Meta enum macro. All right, so. Ooh, this looks intense. Maybe I bit off more than I could chew tonight for this stuff. Yeah, I don't. Stringify macro. This one's the easy one. This is like the example macro. Example macro. So, implementation of the stringify macro, which takes an expression of any type and produces a tuple containing the value of that expression and the source code that produced the expression, the value. So it takes stringify x plus y, expansion of node. So this grabs the first expression and then argument, and then executes it, I guess, here. And that does the description. Okay. Let's try another one. I think that I may be in over my head, but I really liked the idea of doing this. Hash URL requires a static string literal. That's a cool macro though. It takes in the node expansion of node in the context. Sum, and it gets the argument from the expression. Gets the segments. Determines if we need to throw the error or if it's to return the string. That's kind of nifty. Codable key. I think this is closer to what I wanted. Or not. Custom codable. I am way over my head when trying to create a macro. But I was hoping it would say, here's how you can make one. But that's fine. Those are macros that already exist. Macro expansions. We are probably going to end up calling this done here and just work on the app itself. Because as much as I think this is cool, I don't know. To implement a macro, you make two components, a type that performs the macro expansion and a library. Okay, so it has to be in it needs to be in a Swift package manager, it looks like. Does it? Or it's probably just showing that because this is the Swift documentation and Swift is multi-platform. Every macro uses a Swift syntax module to interact with Swift code. There's a corresponding protocol with the Swift system. Oh. So consider 4-character code from the previous section, which I completely skipped. Takes a single argument, must be a string. If you try to pass an integer argument or forgot the quotes at the end, you'd get an error. The compiler finds the place in the code where you called a macro and loads the external binary that implements the macro. Okay. Okay, so that makes sense for like the hash, like the freestanding macros, but what about the attached macros? I'm sure someone has how to write attached macro. And like I said, I'm gonna like probably not worry too much more about this. It just draws the attention to the third-party nature of the macro and decouples the macro from the protocol it adds conformance to. Since the macro, in general, you love this proposal. We seem to have lost witness macro since the original pitch, the form of attached macro that would allow third-party protocols to get the special treatment. Let's see. Okay, so it is evident that in Swift, when declaring a structure, one can choose to explicitly initialize it or leave it uninitialized. We shall conceive a Swift macro christened as struct init. So we have the @struct init keyword. It's going to do this at the end. Awesome. I am so glad that I found. Okay, so actually, let's close that. Let's do file new project. Let's just follow this tutorial and see how this goes. I'm gonna guess other it probably tells me multi-platform. No, it is it not here? Can I not run Swift macros yet? Wait. Can I hit file new and there is no Swift macro. So, well, that's going to put a bummer in my attempt to do this. So if that's the case, we're definitely going to take a break and come back and we'll just work on some apps. I know I don't have watchOS installed. Huh. Create a new macro. In order to create Swift macros, instead of creating a project, you have to create a new package. Oh, so what? I can do iOS probably. Maybe I just didn't do enough here. File, new package. I should actually read the instructions because there's the Swift macro. Create. All right, let's grab this over here. Put this over here. Sweet. All right, now I can see it all. I'm gonna take a break real quick and stand up, and I will BRB. So give me like a moment. All right. Here we go. All right, let's follow this tutorial and let's see if we can I can figure something out. I'm sorry for just following a tutorial on screen. I just think it'll be super helpful to actually know, because I'm not understanding the other stuff. Okay, so after naming your macro, sure, it can be called my macro for now. My macro.swift. So this has a freestanding stringify. Then we have a macro here. Oh, that uses the macro. My macros macros. And the implementation of the stringify macro, which takes an expression of any type. This is what we literally just saw as the options, as the example. All right. So I think we can do this. A macro to add to initialize a struct. Wow, I cannot type. All right, so we'll do it at attached, because we know we already need to attach, because that's gonna grab the options here. Member names, named init, public macro, external macro. So the module where this is from, which is going to be my macro. My macro macros, I guess. Type is, oh, and then the type is the struct init. No, the type is it my macro? Well, let's see. Okay, I declare a struct init macro here. Note the parentheses needed to be added when declaring the macro. The second sentence means the implementation of the expansion that our macro actually performs will be defined inside struct init macro. Oh, so here is where it'll go be defined. And where will it be defined is in my macros. Oh, okay, so we had the stringify macro. So if we go into here, there's the stringify macro here. So this is where the implementation code goes. That makes sense. Oops. Implementation of the struct init macro. Public struct init macro, and this will be a attached macro, I'm guessing. Oh, it's a member macro. So why is it a member macro? Let's go try to figure that out. Because it's at attached member here. That's why. Okay, so you would declare it based on what's inside your, I guess, is that a macro or is that a property wrapper? I don't know which one. But I guess it would tell me if I go up here. Editor. Okay, so that's a property wrapper. So that's just, okay, so that's a property wrapper of cool. So whatever type I say here is gonna match here. Okay. Public, static, func. So now we need the expansion. So this is going to say, what are we going to expand? Ooh. Let's just erase some of these things so that makes it a little bit easier for me to understand. Of node, providing members of declaration in the context, and then it throws where declaration, clear group syntax. This is interesting. Okay. I'm guessing that's because it's the member macro, so I was able to pull some stuff in. Attribute syntax, providing members of declaration in context. Throws where declaration is a type of declaration group syntax, so an array of that. Context is the macro expansion context. Okay. I think I'm missing some stuff, but we'll go with it still. So noted that you need to add your macro to the providing macro so that you can make struct init macro visible to compiler. So inside main, nope. Where is that though? Oh, inside here. So this is a compiler macro. So we need to still add providing macros in here. Struct init macro.self. I have a feeling it's still gonna have some issues, but that's all right. We'll figure it out. We are rolling with the punches. And it's building. We shall see. All right, so inside this expansion, so this is where we're actually going to tell Swift what code we need to expand. We want this macro to be used only on the keyword struct, so we start by casting declaration to a struct declaration. So it looks like we can do guard let struct declaration equals declaration dot as struct declaration syntax dot self else throw my macros dot error. Nah, because like why would this be easy? Can we, you see, like this person didn't put the error in, but we can definitely put one in somewhere. Where'd this go? All right, let's just do a throw. Let's just error struct init error. Public enum struct init error case only apply to structs. And then we can do through struct init error dot only apply to struct. And then we can return that. I guess. I don't know. I don't think that actually helps because like I've gotten some issues. Cannot find type context. Well, that's fun, I guess. Do we need to import the foundation? Where clause on non-generic parameter. Declaration requires a generic option. I'm sure it does. cannot find declaration in scope. So I am still missing stuff. Of some decal group syntax in context. And this is not just any context, it's some macro expansion context. We're gonna throws or Swift syntax dot decal syntax. What can we not find now? There we go. I bet foundation isn't needed now, but I could be wrong. All right. So I'm probably right. So I kind of just copied what was over here, but attribute syntax, and that uses the at attribute here. So for at attached rather than the pound sign for freestanding. Then it of node, so it grabs whatever that means, providing members of the declaration. So now we use that declaration to say if it's a struct or not. Oh, it literally said it here to do this error. Custom string convertible. Why not? If I'm already copying the examples, let's just do it. Var, wow. Description, string, switch on self. Let's use the fancy dancy new stuff here, which is like this. At struct. Init can only be applied to structs. Or to, yeah, that's fine. Next, we need to get all the elements that any syntax and that any structure declares. To figure that out, we can inspect the syntactic structure of the struct in the Swift syntax tree. We force the expansion method to return empty list first. Oh, interesting. So you can actually write a test to grab that. Ooh, that's a lot. Oh, but that's super cool. So like, because we grab literally let's do it real quick because I think this is super neat. So we're gonna set a breakpoint here and then test data. So before we debug, let's go to test data. Cool. Func test struct init macro assert macro expansion. I don't know. Let's just grab it. Let's see. And then grab this one. And then macros is, I guess, test macro. Oh, and then we can say, oh, so I probably want to do my own macro here. So let's do a let struct macro. String macro dot type equals Oh, what did I call it? Struct init. Dot self. I think we're fine. And then here, oops, we can pass in, instead of test macros, we can do struct macros, right? Yeah. Now run the test and hit the breakpoint. So now we can run literally this one test. And it's gonna hit the breakpoint. And then we can print this now that we have it. So inside, so like if we go to my macro here, no, where did I write it? My macro. We can print this struct declaration, I believe. PO struct declaration. And we'll get very similar to what we see here in the Medium article, right? So it basically broke down the attribute, the @ sign, struct init with the identifier. So we can see here in this asset, struct init, we have the struct keyword. So if I open the macro, it's going to say, hey, declaration as struct declaration syntax. We know that it's a struct keyword here. It's cool. All right. And then these are going to give me all of the identifiers, I'm guessing. So we have these keywords var. So I'm guessing that's what we need to grab, is what it's going to tell me. Retrieve the variables. So to retrieve variables of the book struct, we need to follow the structure that is outlined to us in the syntax tree. The member variable names and types of the book structure belong to the node members, and members are child nodes of member block. Right, so we can kind of see that like here and here. We have the member block, left brace, so it's this thing. And then the first thing is members list, and it's a member list syntax. So var ID, variable, var. We have this identifier for ID, and we even have the initializer here. So the type, and it just keeps kind of going. So I wonder though. Oh wait, hold on. Let's try running it again. I'm just curious what I'll get this time. So basically it looks like the same thing. It's just a lot shorter because it doesn't have the initializer. I took out the initializer from the test, right? We are interested in the declarations in this particular. So this person's going to use a compact map to get that variable syntax. Ooh, okay. So let's first grab the members of the block. So we know we have the struct declaration, let members equal well, that's kind of cool that it wants me to do that. Members blocked out members. So now if I run the test, what's going to happen? Like, what will I get, basically? Ooh. So it looks like I didn't even have to do a compact map yet over this. I could just grab the members. So now, because I have the members, because those are an array, right? We can see at 0, at 1. We need to actually grab the variable, the declaration at this point, I guess, is when the compact map comes in, it looks like. I'm just curious if I hit dot again. Nothing. Okay. So let variable declarations equals members dot compact map. List member in return member dot syntax member dot. Oh, and then you can say what syntax you want it as variable. So now if we run it again, I'm just gonna basically do this every time because I'm curious like how this all goes. PO variable declarations. So now we have this variable declarations, right? So I'm guessing we can do another identifier. So another one round of compact maps. Let IDs equals variable declarations dot map. Compact map. Let's just do the fun little Swifty way. Bling 0 dot. We don't need bindings. We need the... Oh, I guess we do need bindings? Well, now I need this because I was like, oh, I'm on it. And then I was not. Okay, so for variable ID, so to fetch all the patterns or the variables names, use variable compact. Okay, so this is going to grab the first dot pattern. And then we can let types equals variable declarations dot compact map bling 0 dot bindings dot first dot type annotations. Okay. So let's run these again. Replace. PO types. Ooh, we have types, it looks like. Ints, so for the name. Oh, we can do one more. Dot type would make sense. But let's do PO IDs. Oh, so we have the ID here. So I'm betting we can also do pattern dot identity. Let's see what that does. The patterns dot, it doesn't say I should do that, but I'm just curious like what it does do to do patterns dot ID. Okay, so that definitely didn't give me anything I was thinking it would do. So let's get rid of that. And now if I could do PO, excuse me, types. And we definitely have the name now. So now we need to, now with variable names containing all the variables name while variable types contain all the types, we need to actually make it do this. But I don't. Generate initial code. That's not it. I'm just curious, like, where? Okay. Here? Is this it? Is this gonna show me? Aha. Type. Okay. Initializer. Try. Generate initial macro. Okay, so it's just right underneath it. So we could do the public. That would make sense to keep it in the same thing. Static. Func. Generate initial code. Variable names. Variables name. Grab the pattern syntax. A variable type. Type syntax. Let's make this a little bit cleaner for me. And then we'll return a partial syntax node string, a type that is expressed by string interpolation in the same way syntax nodes are. Okay. So first off, what does it start with? Initial code string equals init. And then we need to iterate for those names. Name and let's just do, so this is some functional programming stuff. There's this nifty like zip function, which I read about recently also, where it kind of can take two arrays and you go through them iteratively, and each element at the same time goes into a tuple. So initial code plus equals quote quote name type space. And then at the end of that, we'll do initial code plus equals. Boom. Why do we have to drop the last two though? Oh, because we're always adding the comma and the space. We definitely need to drop the last two, if that makes sense. So that we can remove the comma and the space here. And then we can return partial from the string literal of initial code. So then let initializer init equals try initializer declaration syntax of struct. Okay, let's go back to the Medium article because GitHub's getting hard to read. Inside the initializer so let's see. Okay, in order to generate the code above, you have that, which we just went through. Generating initial code method returns a partial syntax string, which can be the input parameter for the underscore header inside initializer declaration. I know, Sydney, soon, I promise. Struct init macro dot generate an initial code. And then we need the IDs, types, why? Oh. Okay, that's fine. Initializer. So now we need to iterate through these for name and IDs, expression syntax, self dot name equals name. That makes sense to me. I think this is the first part that like has completely made sense. All done. Try some test examples, see what happens. All right, let's run it. Let's see what happens. I don't know what will happen, but let's run it. Did I turn off the... No, I did not, but that's fine. So if I do PO, I'm just curious, initializer? Ooh. That looks like PO, what was the first thing? Struct declaration. It's gonna look similar. Okay, so it does look similar because we have these member declaration item and syntax, and then we have these code block syntax, which is cool. And the code failed. Selected test failed. One failure. What was the failure? Oh, because it's a capital S instead of a lowercase s. So let's see. Where did I fail for that? I failed there because I did a capital S here. So now if we run this again, run the test again. Let's try. All right, and it was successful. There were no failures this time. Sweet. So I do want to go back over and just talk about like what happened, because I think I understand it actually now a bit more. So let's go to my macro. Expand this. All right, so there's a struct init macro. And what it's going to do is it's a function type expression. And then we get the declaration itself. So this is only if we wanted to work on structs, we can then make this work on any type of declaration we want to, possibly. So like I said, this only applies to structs right now though. Members, this literally goes through the struct declaration and grabs the member. So like if you were to, it was this really long like thing with zeros, declarations, all that fun stuff. And it grabs and it transforms all of those into variable declarations. So we take the one declaration and get all the different variable declarations inside of it. And then we split up those by IDs and types. So the variable names and the types. We use a helper function that takes in those names and types and generates the like initializer part. So the init parentheses variable 1 is type whatever, variable 2 type whatever. And then we put this, we return that initial code because it has to be a syntax string up here. And then we actually assign it and create more syntax. And there's apparently an initializer declaration syntax. Interesting. Okay. And then we return that declaration syntax with the initializer. So yeah. Okay. I get kind of, it's a lot less scary than I thought it was going to be. It's still a lot of like finding the pieces though. But it's definitely less scary than I thought it was going to be. Hey. Okay. Ooh, that was intense though. I am gonna have to really decompress that a bit more though. I'm still curious how I would like rate. I guess I would do something similar to add a function though. Cause like there's a variable declaration syntax. Is there a, well, I guess I made that, right? Oh, there is a function declaration syntax. Validating the header. So this builds the text of the node before the body and braces. Oh, that's nifty. What's a leading trivia then? What is... I don't want to build the documentation, but that's nifty. Okay, so I could do this with like a function though at the end of the day. All right. That was super fun, y'all. Thanks for bearing with me while I did that. The question is, do I want to keep going on macros or do I want to not keep going on macros? I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna take my headphones off though. That is for sure what I'm gonna do. My ears are toasty. Thank you, Cactus, for the hydrate. I appreciate it. I will hydrate. That is what I'm gonna do. Thank you, thank you. That was fun. That was a brain teaser though. And I guess like I'd have to do something similar if I wanted to do the hashing and make sure that there's like actual IDs to compare against. But yeah, I guess this could, like, you could in theory like use this as like a sorcery replacement. Ooh, stretch. Okay, hold on. We'll do it. I know, girls. What? Oh. All right, that was a nice little stretch as well. I'm about to have to get up in like 20 minutes to feed, 25 minutes to feed the cats because they're being crazy. Hold on. I think we can do this. Yeah. They're just being a little bit crazy here. Yeah. And that's my dog that I always say to stop licking. He's just not licking right now. All right, I think y'all had fun. We'll go feed you soon. But yeah, yeah. Is that your merch? This one? Yes, it is. My shirt? Yeah, it is. I actually have it on display. Yeah. Sometimes I can get fancy. I think not on display, but Cotton Bureau. Oh, can you not? Why can you not have cats? They're sometimes a pain, though. To be honest, they are what they are. They're fun, but they sure do cause a pain sometimes. But yeah, there's my shirt. It's super comfy. You can get them in different colors, but yeah, shades of black to white. They're super comfy. I super enjoy them. I highly recommend the Tri-Blend though, if you're looking for a very comfy shirt. The cotton's alright. I've gotten the cotton from Cotton Bureau before, and it's just alright, but the Tri-Blend is where it's at though. That's like what I'm currently wearing. It is super soft. I can't guarantee like the shipping rates though for like outside America, because this is Cotton Bureau's like expensive, but like they're good. I've had this shirt for a few years now. But yeah, I just have them on demand, so you can definitely do it. But yeah, currently living alone, and you would feel bad when you travel or go out late and wake up late. Yeah, I get that. I understand. It's hard with the pets, traveling and stuff. I mean, even my wife and I, like, we are starting to go on a little bit more trips, and like, yeah, it's just hard. It may make you adults better, possibly. I mean, if you have friends around though, like when you travel, like we just make sure someone comes and checks on them every other day at minimum. And you know, they're all right. They do get lonely. Like people say cats are like aren't people creatures, but that's definitely not the case with our cats. Our cats really like people, to be honest. Let's switch these. Let's go back to here. I'm gonna get rid of this because macro test should go away. You gotta look after a friend's one for 2 weeks and it was the best. Aw, that's awesome. Yeah, I like cats. They're fun. They're crazy creatures though. They are. Okay, she's being camera shy, but yeah, they're fun, but they definitely have their own personalities that make it really challenging sometimes. Ooh, Cocoa Type's going live soon, or has gone live. I wasn't expecting that. I might actually. I know. I don't have really much more to do right now. I really do want to work on this app at some point, but I don't think this is like an on-stream app. This is just for me to do it. It was fun to go through like Swift macros and try to get one working, and we did. I'll probably continue on this a little bit more and post like my learnings either in a YouTube video, on the blog, or in a Discord or two. So definitely join the Discord. But yeah, we're gonna go raid Cocoa Type. Let's go see what he's up to. Oh, he doesn't start for 3 minutes. Oh, and he's running a donation to a charity, Special Olympics Missouri. That's awesome. I need to set up my charity actually for this month, but it's already halfway through. But yeah. So y'all, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Let's go raid. Yeah, he's starting in 3 minutes. I don't have anything to do for 3 minutes. But we're gonna go head over to Cocoa Type, who is a super awesome streamer as well. So let's go raid his stuff. How do I do this? /raid? That's fade. Raid at Cocoa, or can I just do Cocoa? Yeah, no problem. Thanks for dropping by, y'all. Cocoa Type. 1 viewer is ready. Let's see. We'll just 4 viewers are ready. Y'all are awesome. All right, we're gonna head over there, and I will catch y'all later this week, probably. If not, for sure on the socials. Bye.